Earth is home to 100,000 islands. These islands support 20% of global biodiversity, but are also where 80% of all known extinctions have occurred, making them some of the most valuable but also vulnerable ecosystems in the world. These island ecosystems are under growing threats, such as the introduction of invasive species, habitat loss due to development, and climatic changes. And these threats are particularly at play in small island states, such as Seychelles. Despite £42 billion being spent annually on monitoring of biodiversity at conservation sites worldwide, the 2010 HE biodiversity targets were not met. How can we make our efforts more effective? What are the key questions that need answering to improve the effectiveness of our conservation efforts? And how can we ensure the limited resources we do have are focused on achieving national, regional, and even global conservation targets, like the Sustainable Development Goals? My research is focusing on addressing key questions relating to the management of island ecosystems and the threats that they are facing. I have been talking to practitioners from across the Seychelles, talking directly to the people in the front line of island ecosystem management. From these interviews, I hope to develop a quantitative questionnaire that I will hopefully circulate through global networks of island ecosystem management and practitioners. I want to learn how are biodiversity-rich island ecosystems currently being managed and monitored. What is the level of connectivity between these sites and the factors influencing the effective management? What are the ways in which management could be improved? The second part of my research will be to generate information that is directly useful for the management of Seychelles coral reef systems. We know that coral reefs are in decline globally. We also know that Seychelles lost up to 90% in the 1998 global bleaching event. And we know that these disturbance events are becoming more and more frequent and more severe. Research has shown that the healthier reefs are, the faster they can recover. And that some reefs have a higher resistance to coral bleaching and temperature stress. What we don't know is which reefs in Seychelles are more resistant, and we don't know how coral reefs across Seychelles support each other. I aim to determine the connectivity of coral populations across Seychelles and potentially identify keystone reefs that are important larval sources for the region. Over the last 7 months, I've been collecting coral samples from a number of sites across Seychelles with the help of a number of organisations.
This is day 1 of coral connectivity fieldwork in Seychelles. We have just started from St. Anne, and we've been attacked by a swarm of jellyfish. And this is still there from the Seychelles National Parks Authority, and she's been helping me get around today and sample corals. So on to our next slide.
After sampling St. Anne, I went over to Curious Island with Seychelles National Parks Authority and GVI, who helped me to sample from Bailleray, and then across on Pralin to Onze Petit Coeur. Following this, we also then went across to Ile Coco and sampled from there. Pierre-Andre and Nazreen Khan also helped me out by collecting samples from Arid Island under ICS. And Richard Baxter then helped me out with collecting samples from Frigate Island. Across on Mahe, I was then able to collect samples from Bay Turney with the help of GVI and MCSS, and then across to Fisherman's Cove, where I collected samples from the dive site Twin Barges. Following this, it was down to Assumption Island with SIF.
Today we are at Assumption Island, and Cheryl and I have just done one dive. We're going to do a second dive to collect more samples. Conditions are pretty good, it's very good visibility, but there's a ripping current, so it makes collecting samples a little bit more tricky.
My initial aim was to collect samples from 3 different species of coral, Acropora cytherea, Acropora tenuis, and Porites lutea. It soon became apparent, though, that following the 2016 bleaching, Acropora colonies were few and far between, excepting on certain sites. Places like ALDABRA and other reefs within the region may act as kind of nurseries and, places where coral will be able to spew out that larvae to repopulate those other areas which are not so lucky to be protected, but, may ensure the persistence of coral reefs in the future. One of the biggest challenges was maintaining sample integrity. The best way to do this is transferring coral directly into ethanol as soon as we came up from the dive. For the third section of my research, I want to quantify and investigate the threat of plastic pollution to island ecosystems. As part of the ALDABRA cleanup project, and in collaboration with the Ocean Project Seychelles, we are investigating accumulation rates, composition and quantity of the trash arriving in Seychelles, as well as looking at fine-scale trash pathways and the potential threat of increased connectivity via organisms rafting on marine litter. Now I have returned to the UK, the next steps are to complete further interviews via Skype and develop the questionnaire. I will also spend a significant amount of time in the lab extracting DNA from my coral samples, and finally I will compile and analyse the data collected so far on plastic pollution, compile a report and continue with the data collection. Good afternoon everybody from a very sunny UK. I'm sorry I couldn't be with you there in person today to present my research, but thank you very much for listening. And thank you to everyone also who's assisted me in getting all these samples and also with the interviews so far. Obviously I have a lot to do over the next year or so before I can really present the results of my research to you, but if you do have any questions then please feel free to email me and I'll get back to you. Thanks very much. Enjoy your day.